Sounds so formal. All right, 30 minutes of, let's have everybody off screen. Okay. So this is 30 minutes of take care of you. So today's theme in the neighborhood is balance, as coming to change of seasons and things that are going on here, there, and everywhere. Balance. So one way that we can work on balance is core strength. So that will be what we'll play with today. So if you like, find a comfortable way to stand. Maybe you have taken your shoes off. Let's begin, since we're going to be balancing on the feet, let's begin with pedaling the feet, just creating space among all of those joints that make up the toes, the feet. So lift in, and if it feels like a positive addition to your day, come up on your toes and roll over and press. So it's 1 foot at a time. Lift the other heel, press down on the toes, roll over and press. You can make any stretch gentle, or you can make it more intense. Like this is your 30 minutes. All right, so we start, and the suggestion is to be on one side of your chair for an option. We start with the tip to toe. So reaching one arm either out to the side or overhead. And just find your own rhythm. Maybe just notice if one heel lifts and then the other. Maybe you begin to arc over. So the act of standing is building core, right? You're keeping your balance using a lot of muscles. We're going to add to that because most of us are pretty good at standing. So if you like, bring your arms out, and from here, just to play with it, hand on the chair, bring it into a balance. And you can have your hand on the chair, always an option. Here you're focusing on the stretch. Here you're focusing on the core. So either way, change it a little bit. So find a place where you feel strong, right? Building core, building balance, building strength. And from here, 2 breaths. You can always adjust as you breathe in, stretch some fingers and some toes. And as you breathe out, release fingers and toes. And one more breath. Your next breath in, stretch some fingers, some toes, maybe all. And as you breathe out, release fingers and toes. And then as slowly as you would like, come back to standing tall, hands on your hips. Just give yourself a moment, lift one shoulder, and then lift the other shoulder, a little bit of, we were just strengthening, so this is a little bit of lateral stretch. Yeah, all right, then for symmetry, switch sides. So again, give yourself a moment, returning to tip to toe, and again, shoulder consideration. Maybe looking up toward the ceiling or the sky. And if this is your stretch, stay here. If you want to add some core into it, lift the other leg. And your chair, the desk, the wall, the dog. Although I don't think Odie wants to play like that today. Find your stretch, find your balance. And again, 2 breaths if you like. As you breathe in, wiggle some toes, just the toes. And as you breathe out, release the wiggle. One more. On your next breath in, wiggle some fingers. And as you breathe out, release the wiggle. And then as you like, come back to standing tall. Gently press one shoulder back, and then press the other shoulder back. One or both hands over your heart. One or both hands over your heart. When you feel your heart beating, switch hands. 3 breaths. You want, perhaps practice a longer breath in to energize, can be energizing. 3 breaths. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. And let your hands come down to your side. Gently move the fingers on one hand or shake that hand. Then gently move the fingers on the other hand or shake that hand. All right. Step your feet apart. We'll do both sides. So for yours, if you like, step your feet apart, hands on your hips, and notice how the stretch changes as you move from side to side. All right, so this is our wide-legged stretch, which we're going to bring into a balance in a moment. So you want to play with balance again from a wide-legged, the same thing we did from tip to toe, but we've stretched a little bit more. Perhaps you take your hand off the chair. Yeah. And when you notice your breathing, wherever you are, when you notice your breathing, bring your fingers in. Bring your fingers in. And then as slowly as you would like, come back to standing. All right, so for symmetry, do that on the other side. So we start with the wide-legged, and if you like on this side, inside, outside edges of the feet, they're just things to play with. And we are balancing on the feet, so things we can do to keep the feet healthier in the plus column. All right, so hands on your hips. Maybe change the stretch in some way before we do our balance. Maybe add the shoulders. Right. Then, if you like, this may be your wide-legged stretch. It's kind of a variation on half moon. And then, perhaps, and when you find a place where you feel strong, maybe take your hand off the chair. This again and again and again. So I always say, this is you building core. Right? It's not a negative. That's a positive, as long as it doesn't hurt. So find your spot, 2 breaths, and you decide what you want to do with your fingers as we breathe in, move them in some way. And as we breathe out, release the fingers. As you breathe in, fingers move. As you breathe out, release. And again, as slowly as you would like, come back to standing. 1 or both hands over your heart. 3 breaths. Maybe now, if you like, practice a long, slow breath out, which can lower heart rate. We'll take 3 breaths. Feel the breath in. Feel the long, slow breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the long, slow breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the long, slow breath out. And if you like, wiggle the fingers on both hands or gently shake both hands. All right. Standing, we always do both sides, standing on the inside leg, keeping a little bend in that inside leg. Warrior 3, right, which is a power pose. It's a power pose. So lifting the knee, right, another one-legged balance, and then pressing that leg back. Again, using the desk, the wall, not Odie. And then finding your warrior three. Maybe one arm goes forward, maybe one arm is on your hip, maybe both, right? And if today is a challenge day, you might want to move that knee up and down to a little extra, something a little different. Okay, and then as slowly as you would like, hand on the chair or hand off the chair, but very slowly come back to standing. Notice if one leg feels different than the other. Give yourself a few moments to pedal the feet again. Pedal the feet again. All right, so building strength in the same standing leg, little bend in the leg. And then the second part of this, so we do warrior three, and now we're going to do tree pose on this side. So create your tree. So your toes might be on the floor. And again, putting your foot on your knee is extra stress on that joint. So find your tree pose. And then wherever you are, try it with no hands. No hands on the chair. And if you go like this and you put your foot down, that's you building core. Again, that's a positive as long as it doesn't hurt. Okay, so find your tree. Let's go big, strong and steady. Strong and steady. Whoa. Strong and steady. Okay, here we go. So 3 breaths, and you can always put your foot down, number stuck. 3 breaths, noticing you have a little bend in your knee in the standing leg. As you breathe in, stretch your fingers. And as you breathe out, release the stretch. Always keep one hand back on the chair. As you breathe in, fingers stretch, take up space. And as you breathe out, release. One more as you like. Your next breath in, fingers stretch. And as you breathe out, release. And your arms come down, either one hand on the chair to your hip. Just maybe pause here, just in a little different tree pose, hands on your hips. And then if today is a challenge day, maybe move the shoulders, and the foot may come down, and just move in a way that makes you smile. Yeah. All right. And then as you are ready, come back to standing tall. And again and again, pedal the feet, maybe roll over the toes. With one heel press, roll over, as long as it doesn't hurt. A mild discomfort probably means it's a good stretch. Pain means it's not a good stretch. But, all right. And then those 2 power poses on the other side, right? We try to stretch and strengthen as evenly as we can. So now we're standing on the other leg, keeping a little bend in that knee, so you don't hyperextend the knee. And warrior 3. So moving slowly, maybe as you breathe out, the leg goes back, right? And I'm just going to turn so you can see what I'm suggesting. And it doesn't have to go back very far, right? It's still stretching that front hip flexor. Maybe this is your warrior 3 today, noticing you still have a little bend in the standing leg. Maybe, again, today's a challenge day. Maybe both hands on the chair. It's stretching the psoas and then kind of play with it, right? This is building core, getting strong. Notice when you find your balance. Notice when you find your balance. And then as slowly as you would like, come back to standing. Come back to standing. And that was strengthening. So before we do our tree, just give yourself a moment, find a new stretch. Angela is doing this guide start. Maybe it's not a new stretch, but a favorite stretch. Maybe a new take on favorite stretch. Maybe now you're tapping fingertips. Oh, tapping the chair. Fingertips tap. Usually we go with the palm, but fingertips makes it a different stretch. All right. Moving right along. So this is tree pose on this side now. Little bend in the standing leg again and again and again. What isn't helpful is to lock out that knee joint. Okay, so give yourself a moment. It's a different side, different days, different sides, different stretches. So perhaps, again, on the knee joint, not usually a good plan. This may be your tree. Different things to play with. All right, so finding your tree, creating that tree pose where you feel strong. Yeah. And then, today's a little different. We usually do this on the second side, and that's fine if you want to do that. Or maybe you want to find something different, which might be just for fun, making gentle, closing your hands, doing a little bit of the back bend. If you want, just maybe something just a little bit different in tree pose. There's so many different trees. And then wherever you are, 2 more breaths if you like. 2 more breaths. As you breathe in, press down on your toes. And as you breathe out, release. As you breathe in, toes press. And as you breathe out, release. Right. And then come back to standing tall. Okay. Everything we've done so far has mostly been strengthening. So let's take some time and stretch those very large muscles that have been allowing us to find our balance. So kitchen stretch. So on a desk, on a chair, on a kitchen counter, perhaps fingers pressing. Again, shoulders back, hips back, knees bent. It's a way to protect the low back anytime you bend forward, whether it's to pat a puppy, pick up a kid, pick up groceries, shoulders back, hips back, knees bent. Okay, and then just give yourself a few moments to find your kitchen stretch setup. Right? So maybe today, this is where you are. Maybe you want a different stretch. And then from here, after you found your starting point, 4 sets of hip rock and roll. So focusing on moving that hip bone. You can tuck the hip under, and then if you like, lift the hip rock and roll. If you want to add the breath, the suggestion is as the hip, take a breath in, and let's see, take a breath in, and the hip lifts. And then as you breathe out, hip tucks. You may want to do it the other way. And try it both ways, but breath in, hip lifts. It's usually the expanding is the breath in. And then as you breathe out, curling in. And 2 more. Breath in, hip lifts. Kaya's dreaming, so you might hear some dog sounds. And as you breathe out, tuck in. All right, and then come back, but come to strong and steady. And just notice if this still is a comfortable way to practice kitchen stretch. So you can adjust. Maybe the feet come forward, maybe the feet go back. Right. So 2 breaths in strong and steady as you breathe in. This is to stretch because we've just been strengthening muscles. As you breathe in, feel the press on the chair. And as you breathe out, and I'm exaggerating, press your hips back. 1/2 inch or whatever. Next breath in, feel the press on the chair. And as you breathe out, hips press back. And as you are ready, come back. I don't know if you can hear her, she's running in her sleep. Come back to standing tall. All right, so notice how this feels. 3 shoulder rolls back. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. And as you breathe out, shoulders roll back and down. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. As you breathe out, shoulders roll back and down. And one more. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. And as you breathe out, back and down. Hey, little girl. Hi, girl. Good girl. All right. Another standing, strengthening, finding your balance pose. Warrior 1. So we did warrior 3. Now we're doing warrior 1. So conveniently located behind your chair if you like. Hoping your chair doesn't have wheels. Angela, I hope your chair doesn't have wheels. That's always a challenge. I've done that in classes with chairs with wheels. Anyway, we always do both sides. So step 1 foot back. And the suggestion is to step your foot straight back, maybe with enough distance so that your heel does not touch the floor. Gives you somewhere to stretch, right? And then if you like, bend your front knee. Okay, so where's the balance? Well, 1 hand, 2 hands, there's your balance. If today is a challenge day, and not every day is, right? You can lift the front heel. Maybe you try that, and the fingertips go back on the chair. Maybe 1 hand comes off, maybe both. Just kind of play with it, right? And if you like, stay here. There's your balance challenge. If you like, lift 1 arm, and then lift the other if you like. Challenge day, lift both. Maybe your heel goes down. Just making adjustments. Maybe looking up. Maybe the opposite hand. And these are just things to play with. Maybe you close 1 hand and you make it into a little bit of a back bend. Right? So things to play with. Things to play with. Right? And maybe both hands. So wherever you are, suggestion is to take 2 breaths. Maybe practicing a longer breath in, which can be energizing. Okay, so wherever you are, feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. All right, and then as you like, you switch sides. So stepping the other foot back. And again, suggestion is enough distance so that the heel is off the mat. Why? Because it gives you somewhere to stretch. As you press down on that back heel toward the floor, you get an Achilles tendon stretch and a calf stretch in a supported way. All right, bending the front knee. And then again, find your own ways to play with this. Some suggestions are 1 hand off, 2 hands off, maybe 1 hand up, maybe lift the front heel, both hands, maybe bring the fingers in on the 1 hand, a little bit of a back bend, maybe both arms up. Maybe 1 arm or both arms. Yeah, just kind of play with it. And remember, when you go like this, that you building core. Yeah. 2 more breaths wherever you are. 2 more breaths wherever you are. Pick your breathing pattern. Longer breath in can be energizing. Longer breath out can lower your heart rate. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. Feel the breath in. Feel the breath out. Okay. And then as you're ready, come back to standing. And before we take a seat, lengthen, because again, that was strengthening, like we were clearly stretching some muscles, but mostly we were strengthening legs and core. So just give yourself a moment to stretch out in whatever way feels like you're stretching out. Take up space, fingers stretch, toes stretch. Maybe one more. Angela, ring the bell. Gentle, gentle lengthening of the spine. All right, and when you are ready, waking anything up, find a seat. All right. Tap your fingertips, tap your toes. All right, let's practice the anytime, anywhere breath. 3 breaths. So one hand is going to press. The suggestion is long, slow breaths out. That's what that anytime, anywhere breath was designed for. At the VA, I don't know if Cindy was in the group. I'm not sure if Angela was or not. But anyway, this is it. As you breathe in, press down on your fingers, one hand. And on a long, slow breath out, release. As you breathe in, fingers press. As you breathe out, release. As you breathe in, fingers press. As you breathe out, release. On the other hand, the suggestion is to practice it 3 times using your other hand. Saying it to yourself in your mind, because you are always with you. And this is a breath you can do when you're talking to someone. Yeah? All right. So if you like, 3 times, other hand, not rushing your words. Not rushing your breath. Take your time with your words. Take your time with your breath. All right, let your arms come down to your sides. Okay, girl. And 3 shoulder rolls forward and 3 shoulder rolls back. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. And as you breathe out, shoulders roll forward and down. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. As you breathe out, shoulders roll back and down. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. As you breathe out, back and down. Okay, and then 3 back, if you like. So as you breathe in, shoulders lift a comfortable distance. And as you breathe out, shoulders roll back and down. The next breath in, shoulders lift. And as you breathe out, shoulders roll back and down. As you breathe in, shoulders lift. And as you breathe out, shoulders back and down. All right, so let's like to end with the opportunity to make a 2-minute plan. Maybe notice if you practiced any of the short breath breaks or stretching breaks this past week. If you did, hopefully it helped. And if you didn't, that's okay. There's another week ahead of us. So 1 minute, take a breath if you like. We practiced feel the breath. We did finger press breath. And we did the anytime, anywhere breath. We may have a different one you want to use. Use it to change how you are feeling. A longer breath in can be energizing. Longer breath out can be calming. All right. And then maybe pick one stretch that felt good to you today that you want to do later for a minute. Then you have a 2-minute plan. Well, all right, everybody. people, this is the 30-minute yoga for you, and people join from work, so they come and go. 10 minutes or 5 minutes, even 5 minutes can be a help to your day. So thank you for joining us. Have a good, safe week, and hopefully see you next week.